like crazy, so I've opened up the chat on the other side too, but I got to make sure I'm muted there because it'll backfeed on me. Here's a question, man, right out of the gate. Like, guys, glad to have you here today. We are here with Caleb, and we're going to get started here in just a second. I kind of got to get some back end stuff taken care of. You guys hear a buzz on yours?
A little bit. It went away now.
Okay.
Sounds all right on mine.
Good. I think it was the back end of my computer. Too many windows open at the same time. So, yeah, there we go. We're straight. We'll get to that question here in just a second, Brian. But first of all, we want to thanks you guys for showing up in the chat. Of course, first up in is Louie, the Lone Star Picker. Man, first, not the last. Thanks for coming on, Louie. Leroy, Blood, Sweat, and Cell. Good to have you. Some guy named Dapper Tiger that we have here every week. Good to see you guys in the chat. Brian, thanks for coming in. Anthony, thanks for being here, bro. Nikki T coming in. Tim at Over the Years. Guys, thank you for coming on board. Dan, Art Vandalay, thanks for coming in the chat. And guys, we're going to try to go ahead and get started. And so we will get to your question, Brian, but I first want to introduce, as always, myself and Sam have been here for a little while. We were just talking about 3 months in, I think, but wow. We are pleased to have with us tonight Phoenix Resale. Caleb is with us. So we're going to give him a chance to kind of just open up and tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll get to your questions. And we have some questions on our own. As always, if you have questions, if you'll put them in caps in the chat, that helps us keep up with what's going on. And we will get to them at some point as we go through this thing. And Sam usually keeps me straight on the comments if I miss anything. But
I got you.
We thank you guys for coming in. So Caleb, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. So I am a full-time reseller. I live here in Lexington, Kentucky. Been going at it for coming up on 2 years here in September. Started out, did it part-time as a side hustle for about a year and got into the game flipping books on Amazon from thrift stores and book sales and stuff like that. It was a good sort of low cost of entry way to get into reselling. I found a couple of YouTube channels, Reezy Resells, if you guys have seen him. He's a big Amazon guy, as well as Gary V's Trash Talk were pretty instrumental early on for me and just kind of introducing me to the world, to the community, and to really the possibility that, flipping things on a regular basis and to earn real income is out there. I really it hadn't been much on my radar previous to that point. So that was how I got into it. And then since then, I have dabbled in various other niches. Like I've done a good number of textbooks, including like online textbook arbitrage, like buying off season and selling during peak season. Have done a good amount of like vintage items, mostly from helping my grandma clean out her attic. And also most recently have been focusing pretty hard on video games. It's a niche that I've always done at least some of, but particularly now with heightened demand and just markets being all out of whack, I've done a lot more of that, both in person, sourcing at pawn shops, thrift stores, yard sales, and also sourcing online, mostly from GameStop.com, hitting up some of their sales and trying to get large amounts of inventory that way. So it's a little bit about my business model, I guess. I would say right now I'm probably 80% Amazon, although when yard sale season is higher, it flows a little bit more towards eBay, maybe more like 60-40. But yeah, did I miss anything?
No, man.
That's a lot. We'll obviously dig in a little deeper into some of that
For sure.
as we go along. We will jump on this question since Brian dropped it in as soon as we came in chat. So we want to make sure we address that right out of the gate. The question for everyone, and we'll start with you, Caleb, is how do you motivate yourself to list your death pile, the nemesis of all resellers? Sourcing is the fun part, but listing is boring and tedious.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that for sure. For me, it comes down to a couple things. One thing that will often kind of light a fire under me is anytime sales dip, that sort of is a natural motivator for me to, like, the only way to remedy that is just to list stuff. I can't fix that by going out and buying more. That's just going to hurt my cash flow even more. And the other thing is often I'll kind of impose limits or like incentives on myself where I'm like not allowed to go out sourcing until I list a certain amount of stuff. Or I'll say, okay, I'm buying a ton of stuff. So for example, like tomorrow I'm going to go out and go to some yard sales and stuff, mostly to film a video. But after that, like I just did a really large video game purchase, and like this whole week, I'm not going to go to the pawn shops, not going to go to the thrifts until I can get some stuff out of my life. So that's kind of what it is for me. I normally am pretty good about not having much of a death pile. That's, I would say, one of my strengths, kind of delaying gratification in that way. But that said, full disclosure, I do have a really good number of like vintage hats and other vintage items that have been sitting in my shed for a long time because I'm trying to take full advantage of the peak in video game prices right now, and I'm going pretty hard in that niche. So that's a couple things on my end.
Sam, if you want to follow up with that for yourself.
Well, I think doing things like kind of tracking stuff, like how many I listed versus what sold throughout the week. That's something that I got from Cincinnati Picker. I know he got it from somebody else. He's told me before, but I totally forget. But it's literally the easiest way, day by day. And for me, it's different because I don't have the the pressure of being full time. For me, I'm still part time. It's still pretty much a hobby for me. So for me, I don't feel it as much like, oh, if my sales dip, it's like, man, whatever. But so to keep me on track, what works well for me is to kind of just visually see that, okay, if I don't list, it goes, my sales go down. It may take a few days, maybe even a week to kind of see it manifest, but it's pretty straightforward, And granted, there are going to be days where, I'm off, but I try not to also go crazy. Like, I don't know, I used to do this in school. Like this semester, I'm going to turn it on. Like today, I'm going to do 20 listings. Like, yo, let's be realistic. You got time for 5. You got a baby. Like, so I have to kind of give myself space for that too.
Louis kind of touched on one of my motivators for listing right here. My wife says, "What are you doing? Bringing in more stuff in the house?" But for me, some of it is. It's just like touching on what Caleb said. I mean, when sales dip, you kind of like need a kick in the pants sometimes, saying, "Hey, time to go back to what's making you money." Tim said one of the other things. He said that bill collectors motivate himself on how to list, because if you are doing this as an income, man, if it ain't in the store, they ain't buying it. It's like you going to the grocery store. If it's sitting in the back room, you ain't putting it in your cart because you're not allowed in the back room. So It is one of those things. And I think touching on what Sam talked about too is be realistic with your goals, because ultimately, don't we all beat ourselves up? Like I know Rev and Nikki T were on a listing challenge, and like Colton and Courtney were doing that as well. And it's like, man, when you set a goal and you're like, gosh, I blew that today. And then you get down on yourself and say, well, I'll pick it up tomorrow. And then it becomes tomorrow. And, so I think setting an attainable goal, a realistic goal. And, for me, I just started doing a thing where I'm setting a goal for the week rather than the day, because for me, it seems to work better doing that. Because for the day, if I say, hey, I'm going to list 20 items a day, well, it's probably not realistic that's going to happen. And that's one of the things I do. But everybody has their own formula. You kind of have to work it out for yourself. But the motivation is, why are you doing it, for one? Because if it's not listed, it ain't selling. That's for sure.
Yep. And I think Caleb touched on something that I think will work well for Brian, right? So he's talking about incentives, or at least Caleb is. And I think that's a way that you can kind of structure and motivate yourself, since sourcing is your carrot, so to speak. Why not design it so, hey, like if I get X amount of listings before Thursday, I can go out yard selling, or whatever your sourcing preference of choice is. Maybe structuring some sort of incentive system for yourself that way. That's a good idea.
I don't know if that's me, but who that is. So when I recognize some people in the chat that popped in. Annie, good to have you in. Miss Sharon, thanks for coming by. Dan, the answer man, in the house, and Andy So Meta as well. See Jeremy and George popping in. What the hell's glad to have you in as well. So we do thank you guys for coming by. Frank, thanks for coming by as well. Guys, as always, if you have questions, put them in the chat. I know for myself and Sam, we've been watching. Good to have Miss Ginger Marvin in the house. Kathy, thanks for being here. She was our guest last week, and we appreciate you coming by. But for us, tell me a little bit about, like, so obviously getting into Amazon is a completely different animal than eBay. So was it just like watching Reezy and those guys that kind of helped you go in that direction, or was it what kind of led to that path?
Yeah, I think so. I think part of it was what I was introduced to first. Well, technically that's not true, because I've sold stuff on eBay even like in high school. So I had an eBay seller account that I was able to start getting back into a little bit more. But part of what motivated it was also necessity, because I got into resale in like late October, and so yard sales were very minimal. Thrift stores, there's some opportunity, obviously, but there's a lot more if you're able to focus on books as well. So I think that was part of what made me go that route. I think I became aware early on that there are opportunities that Amazon presents that just aren't as accessible on eBay. So I think, and I think books is a great example of that, of a genre like that. Like, there might be a book, because Amazon is a place that people go so frequently for books, oftentimes prices are a lot higher. So I don't think that I would have been able to flip books the same way on eBay as I do, or as I did mostly on Amazon. So just having that avenue, and also having a really solid place that I trusted to learn about it, I think was kind of the perfect storm that got me into that first. And I'm grateful that I did, because starting on Amazon is, I think, the hardest part, because it's kind of an intimidating beast, and in some ways, the more you know about it and the more you hear about it, it can become a little bit scarier. And so I'm glad that, like, when I jumped in, and almost before I knew better, I just started it. And yeah, I think that's also the strategy that I recommend to other people who are thinking about it, is like, just start an account. Like, it's a little bit more tedious than eBay. There's more information you have to provide with, like, identity verification and bank account and stuff like that. But I mean, it's paperwork. And once you have it, that's one less step, one less thing between you and sending off, your video games or your books or whatever to a place that you might be able to sell them at a higher price than other marketplaces, just because of the demand and the customer base Amazon has.
Yeah. Have you run into any issues with Amazon's yet? Because I guess that's the thing that's intimidating, is
for sure. Yeah, Amazon definitely has its share of issues that you run into less with other platforms. Fees are higher. Returns are also much more common because of Amazon's hassle-free return policy. Customers have a high degree of trust in it, and it can get abused. I've had more scams on Amazon than eBay. although not too many. I think only maybe 2 or 3 in the last couple of years. So people tend to notice scams a lot more just because of, I think, the emotional impact that it has. And it's easy to, oftentimes, I think the negative voices are the loudest, not just in resale, but like in life in general.
Right.
So I hear a lot more about scams on Amazon than I have experienced. Part of that may be due to like business practices as well. But yeah, the combination of higher fees, higher returns, and a greater distance, I think, between buyer and seller makes for scams to be a little bit more likely. And then the biggest thing for me, the biggest downside, is feedback. So on a lot of other platforms like eBay or Mercari, feedback is almost like a social norm. It's almost somewhat expected, and you kind of feel bad if you don't give it, depending on the kind of person you are and how the platform is prompting you. Amazon, there have been months that I've sold 500 plus items and got 1 feedback. So like it's really hard to build up positive feedback, because the people who will go out of their way to leave you feedback are the ones who got a game that was scratched, or who got a console that they didn't actually know how to hook up and it wasn't working. So that's for me the most frustrating part about Amazon. I don't fixate on that a lot, because I feel like there's enough other negative voices out there that are covering that plenty. And I like to talk a little bit more about the opportunity that is there, because that's also partly just my personality.
No, but like, and it's funny because you do hear that, right? When you kind of get into the YouTube space, like you said, you dig into it, you start hearing some of the negative. But then when I start talking to individual Amazon sellers, that's the resounding thing. Like, it happens, it's happened. It'll happen on any platform, but it doesn't happen like every day. So I make more money than I do worried about, getting scammed and stuff. Doesn't happen? Yeah, sure. But
yeah. Have you guys had any like scams or like bad returns or anything recently?
I do on eBay. I actually got kicked off of Amazon like 2 weeks in because I took bad advice, not good advice. And I did some RA stuff that there was one other seller on. He reported me an inauthenticity claim, and I can't get back on with that. But I've had a lot of video game rental during the pandemic stuff for sure on eBay, where guys will order it, keep it for a week or two, send it back. Like that kind of. I've had some of that recently.
Yep.
So. I mean, I primarily sell on Mercari, so there was like one time I was worried a guy was gonna send me back like fake AirPods, like in place of like real ones that I sent to him. But they got, Mercari kind of were watching him like a hawk, and they took care of it. You'll get people that send you messages. Like yesterday, somebody told me that this like steel key hook thing that I sent them like broke in the mail somehow. And I was like, I don't know how they did it, but go ahead and just submit a claim to Mercari. They never did, and so I got my money.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like some of that stuff. I had a guy message me. I have some of these Rainbow Six, like they're kind of like pops, but they're something else. And I sent one out the other day. Now these things are sealed. I bought them RA and I sold them on eBay. And the guy's like, "Hey, the card's not in this thing." I was like, "Bro, I've never opened the box." And then I got a message back from him all this, like maybe 10 minutes later, saying, "Oh yeah, I didn't see where it was there. Everything's good, thanks." Like I'm like, "Yeah, you're looking for a discount. I understand." Like that's like we're seeing what it is.
Yeah,
trying to get a little kickback. So that's one of the things. So are you selling a lot of consoles on Amazon then, or are you?
Yeah, I do a decent number of consoles as well. I prefer games because they're easier.
Yeah.
Just listing, packing, shipping. It's easy to just send a whole box of them off. Whereas with a console, you got to make sure you have all the right components. You have to test it. And then sometimes, and console return rates are far worse than games for me, because people they don't understand them. I very often will have people return consoles as defective, and then I test them and they're just fine. So that's an unfortunate side of consoles, but especially right now, there's pretty significant upside. at least on Amazon. I think prices aren't quite so inflated on other platforms because of Amazon's buy box function. So the way they have kind of a unique method of presenting listings to potential buyers where, like, you know, when you're on Amazon, you click on an item and then it has like the suggested price, like buy now.
Right.
Even though that listing might not be the lowest price. And quite often, especially recently, I've been selling consoles that are 50 to even 100% higher than the lowest listed offering because I was able to get the buy box.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Supply and demand is all out of whack right now. So I've been trying to capitalize on it where I can. I've mostly been buying consoles from video game stores, which 6 months ago was unheard of because like they're charging basically the prices that I would be able to get on Amazon. So there's no arbitrage there.
Yeah.
But now with supply shrinking and demand growing, that opportunity, pawn shops sold out very quickly, which is where I used to source a lot of consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So when people can't go there, they can't go to GameStop because it's closed down and online is sold out. Amazon's one of the only places, and so prices just skyrocketed. But that's a long answer to say, yeah, I sell a good number of consoles too, although I like games better.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like when Corona started, I mean, you look at, I had some crazy stuff go down with video game. I had just did a bulk buy of video game consoles, like maybe 3 weeks before all this went haywire. And
that's good timing.
Yeah, but here's a mistake that I did. It weren't a mistake at the time. The reason I did it is because I'm one of those people, like I go into a big buy and I look at, okay, what in this is going to make the money to pay for everything else that I can pay profit. So when I bought that, I had 15 Wii consoles in there, right? So I've got somebody who buys kind of wholesale for me. If I want them to, they'll buy as many consoles as I want to send them. And it's a little lower than what I would normally get, but it's cash in hand. So when I did that buy, I sold those 15 consoles and it paid for everything else. If I'd had a little foresight and known what was coming, I would have sold them something else and paid for everything else. Like the Wii went from $30 to $80 to $100 like overnight. I was like, ouch. Yeah. That was like $1,500 worth of Wiis I sent off to that guy.
Well, and get this, on Amazon, I was selling a Wii with Wii Sports for $250.
Wow, that's incredible,
I mean,
man.
It was unprecedented. And it's not that bad anymore. But for a while, people couldn't buy Wiis fast enough. It was wild.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy to see. And a Wii, I mean, for me, like I know you deal with a lot of video games as well, but a Wii for me is pretty durable. Like, I maybe 1 in 10 that I pick up from a yard sale doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But Xbox 360 on the other hand, like I have more door stops than I got ones working.
Yeah, they were not known for their longevity.
Yeah, yeah, we got so much red ring going on.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, dude, I had messaged you about fixing up a Nintendo. You're like, nah. I mean, I looked it up, and it took me 30 seconds to fix up an old console and get it working again. So,
yeah, and console repair is not something that I really specialize in.
Yeah.
I'm learning a little bit. I'm at the point where like I'll replace joysticks, I'll open up controllers to clean them out and stuff like that. Simple things. Obviously, cleaning pins on cartridges, but. Yeah, console repair, that's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
I used to follow a guy who would, way before all this COVID stuff, he would just make a whole business out of fixing broken switches. All the for-part switches, I guess for the most part, there were battery shortages that he could replace fairly easily, and he would just make his money back, no problem. And his whole YouTube channel
videos.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It is. It's crazy. Good to see Colton and Tamara and Yvette. I think did I miss somebody else? Bill Thackett, thanks for coming in, bro. Yeah, you're not late. You're just in time. We're just getting going. But we, you know, for me, the same thing. I have so many projects when I got into video games because I mean, I don't mind tinkering with them. It's just time. Good God.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a time suck. You're like, unless that's all you do and know how to do it quickly and efficiently, it can definitely drag. It's like, is it worth it or not? Like,
Yeah.
but I would sell it for parts and be done with it. Like, if I got, but for sure. Brian's talking about the special screwdrivers.
Yeah, that Y wing screw.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can show you guys. I bought this kit. I think it was eBay. It was like $12. If anybody is interested in like minor console repair, it's got all of the special screwdrivers that you would need to take apart basically any system or cartridge. It's got some of these. I don't know what they would be called, but they take apart screws in like N64 cartridges. And then it's got other random useful tools for like getting gunk out of cracks and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I would recommend this over like, I need this screwdriver, so I'm going to pay $5 for this one and then $5 a little bit later on. It's just really nice to have it all in one spot.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have a kit similar to that when I was like customizing my Switch controllers and stuff.
Yeah, I've got one of those. It's not, that one's a little better than what I got. I got the one that has the replaceable tips that you lose, you know. Like,
dude, that's small screws.
Yeah. That's crazy. I took apart a Game Boy, like an original Game Boy, and I was like, oh man, I've lost one of those screws. Like, I don't know where it went. It's so tiny, it got sucked in by the carpet, I guess.
So what drew me to you, Caleb? You know, when I first, we were talking in the back room, I kind of discovered Caleb when his channel, well, this was like a few months back. It was just a few hundred. And what was unique about Caleb was where he was sourcing. Because at the time, everybody was very thrift heavy. Even when COVID started happening, it was shop Goodwill and estate sales here and there. But Caleb was, I think the first time I saw he was going to the family videos, he was on his way to see his grandmother, and he sourced all the way there and back. And talk about someone, who's skillful at social media too. He's taking you along, giving you a little, piece by piece of what he's sharing on Instagram, and then he puts it all together for you on YouTube. I thought that was very clever.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you saw those videos. I'm glad someone saw those videos, because those ones that I posted from earlier on, I feel like they're still pretty high quality. And yeah, a lot. And I think it was about half and half family videos and pawn shops.
Yep.
And I've only found a couple other channels that really source pawn shops very much. So I do think that's one of the more unique things that that I offer. The whole pawn shop negotiation realm, that's kind of part of the fun for me too. And I need to get better also about capturing some of that, because it's hard to negotiate and look and kind of be looking comps up and stuff and film all at the same time, because oftentimes you're having them open cabinets up for you, and you're you might be scanning or looking something up in the moment as you're kind of talking to them, and so it's hard to introduce a camera also into that. But maybe I'll do a little bit more in the future.
I know I've asked you before. So are you primarily filming on your phone?
Yeah, I just got this GoPro, which I plan to use a little bit more at yard sales, maybe tomorrow. The battery on it just kind of sucks. So, but it's nice to have something that is not the same device I'm using to do everything else on.
Yeah. At least for the comping aspect of things, frees you up.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
It definitely changes things. It is, and honestly, for all of us, I mean, we're smaller YouTube channels as well. So Jack, just figuring out, I guess some of the time for me, the hardest thing is just remembering to click play, because I'm like, dude, you're so into what you're doing, to remember, hey, I'm trying to film this as well and create some content here. There's plenty of times, I've been at yard sales, I was like, I didn't hit play, rookie move. I didn't, and then I'm going, or I didn't hit record. and I'm going there and I'm making it like a killer deal, and I'm like, none of this is captured. So, hey guys, this is what happened, but I can't show you because I didn't.
Right.
Like, sorry.
Yeah.
I run into that all the time. 2 favorite things to source. I guess that's for me and you, Sam.
Good, man. Take it away.
For me, anything that'll turn a profit. To be honest, like I don't discriminate. I do. Man, there's certain things I enjoy. Just unique stuff, man. Like just never knowing what you're gonna find where you're there. I guess it's more for me. It's less about specific items and more about the treasure hunt. Like really, for me, is like what in the world will I find? Like I found recently German holsters at a yard sale, like about 10, 13 of those. I found some sweet sneakers that you see behind me. That by the way, that video will be dropping tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for it. Bought out a sporting goods store, so that's something that doesn't come every day. That happened in about a 3-day time span. That hey, you want to buy this kind of thing. So that was a crazy buy. But you know, for me, it's more about the treasure hunt and never knowing what you're gonna see. Like never knowing what's out there and what it's worth. So
I would say I primarily will drift towards video games and shoes. Those are, you know, regardless if it's an estate sale, whatever the sourcing place is, those are the 2 categories I'll drift towards first. And then, you know, if I had to pick like a third, it would be, you know, something that I could probably learn from. You know, I try and take a page out of the Amazon resellers and try and scan at least a few things, you know, 4 or 5 things I would never probably dream of scanning. Just, you never know. So some of those have been probably more the worthwhile finds, you know, the random ones that, like I got this leather kit and it was all toiletries, but it was like super old. It was like 1930s. I picked it up for like $2 at Goodwill. Like, and I just snatched it not thinking about it. And it was like $150 kit. I was like, what? So those have been the more fun ones, of course.
Ooh, I should give a shout out to Redneck Resale. He apparently knows my favorite Pokemon, Poliwhirl. So I don't know. Do I have one in the background here? I've mentioned it before, so thanks for that little shout out.
Now,
I thought I was gonna see Pooh Bear.
Yeah, Colton is he's one of those guys that he tells me about channels sometimes that I was like, man, I had no idea about these guys. Like he's always. He told me he used to lurk for a while in people's channels. So you may know. He's one of those guys. He's watching for sure.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you, one of my favorite hobbies recently is I'll go to YouTube and I'll type in some term like eBay sales or like yard sale vlog or something like that. And I'll sort the results by most recent rather than relevance. Yeah. And it puts me onto all these super tiny channels that I never would have found otherwise. I love jumping in and engaging on those. It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me and Sam do that from time to time to where we'll shoot each other a message and be like, hey, I just popped in this guy. He has like 2 people watching, like, and we'll go into live and kind of talk. Because, I mean, honestly, like, think about when you first got started. I know how I am when I first got started. Not saying I'm anywhere now at this point, but you know, when I first got started, man, how great it was when all of a sudden people popped in and you're like, people are watching. Like, can you believe it? You know, so it's kind of cool to see that when you're able to continue to help each other out. But for sure. Louis had asked the question. The real question is, what's the least favorite items? He said top 5 I do not like to source. What makes that list for you?
The first thing that pops into my head is clothing. I'm not a clothing man. I don't like dealing with dimensions and questions about the clothes, and I don't have a good setup to photograph at all. I've got a good setup for small items, but not like, I don't have a mannequin. I don't have like a good wall. So clothes just doesn't really make sense for me. I'm also really bad at antiques because I know nothing about them. I don't I'm sure I walk by so many valuable antiques at yard sales. Another category would be furniture, because I just don't have the space.
Mm.
Those are probably the biggest ones for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'd have to second you on clothing. Well, primarily women's clothing, especially with fast fashion. There's so many brands to keep up with, and I'm with you. I don't really have too much space, especially for like getting good photographs. I don't have a mannequin, so I'll do like flat lays on the floor and stuff like that for some photos. But I would just say, I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment. I can't really do furniture or anything like that. I've tried some antique chairs and gotten away with it, but those were like quick flips on like Facebook Marketplace. And then like I saw somebody else talk about vinyl records. Like I love sourcing them for myself, for my own collection, like next to me. But like flipping them, maybe if I ever decide I want to do like an antique booth in the future. I know Cincinnati Picker does well in this antique booth with his vinyls.
Yeah, maybe if you're sourcing them to sell them to Cincinnati Picker, like that's what I would want to do. It's like I don't want to do. I actually gave away a stack of records yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
To a guy who's another reseller, because I was like, man, for me. I'm not going to list them. I know I'm not going to list them. They're just going to sit in the corner. And because just like clothing, that's another thing that you're like, man, if you send it out, there's going to be a problem, because the people that collect records, like they are picky about that stuff. Like, hey, when I pulled out my magnifying glass, I saw a hairline little crack in the corner of this label, or, I just, for me, clothing is number one on that list every day, all day. Unless it's hats or shoes, I'm skipping it. I started like a lot of people. When you first start out, you're buying everything, and a lot of the clothing I bought in the very beginning, I finally have dropped it back at the thrift store because it's not anything I want to deal with.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's just other things. I used to avoid glass, but I've been hanging around with Tim a little bit, kind of sending him some things. And I've sold a few pieces recently, but glass for me has to come at a really good cost. I know that there's some people that are like, the glass. Tim, if you don't know, over the years, man, he's like the glass whisperer. He knows all about that stuff.
Yep.
But for me, I like, now that I'm getting a little bit better at sourcing, I lean toward quick flips or higher profits, one or the other. Like that's kind of where I'm getting. I still pick up all kinds of random stuff just because it's throw-ins, but it is one of those things. I think I've seen some people in the chat say glass and clothing.
Yeah, glass is a big one for me. I don't think I've ever flipped something made of glass.
Yeah.
I know there's money in it too, but
Tim is your guy. If you ever get curious about it and you start seeing an antique weight, or I don't know, you happen to come across some mid-century modern glass,
right?
Yeah,
on the cheap.
Yeah, I know there's money in it. I can't spot it.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, I picked up a piece the other day that is that, which I think some of that stuff's cool myself, like just to look at. But I picked up one of those, my very first find of the Vaseline glass that looks like a normal glass thing, and then you throw the black light and it glows up. That thing is cool. Like I was like, but it's only worth like $20. It's not, it's setting the world on fire, but it's one of those things. The price was right. Free 99 is always my favorite.
There you go.
It's
So what are, I know there are some folks like who are probably newer, or, video games for them is like glass to you.
Yeah.
So when you're sourcing, what are things that you look out for? Or maybe, I guess, some rules that you kind of stick by when you're sourcing?
Good question. And I'm glad you asked it, because I think that it can be tempting to view video games as sort of the ultimate niche, and it's hard to go wrong with them. But in reality, it's pretty easy to go wrong. There are far more, it's far more common to come across games that are worth nothing than valuable games.
Right.
The biggest piece of advice that I have for someone who's looking to, just better their knowledge and to sort of add that to their reseller tool belt, besides just following channels that talk about it, that's the biggest way that I learn any niche. Started out with books, went to video games, Chase After the Right Price. I mention him almost all the time on my channel because he's who I learned the video game niche from. And he's really one of the only other guys I can think of who sells video games as his full-time job. But the other best way to learn is having the commitment to go into a pawn shop or a video game store or a thrift store and look up every game and just take the time necessary and just count it as part of your education. And in some ways it'll pay off because you will find stuff. And this is made a whole lot easier with if you're selling on eBay, the little scanner tool, right? Because most of the time they're going to have a barcode and you don't have to type in Skylanders Imaginators on the Xbox One sold listings. You just scan it, right? Or if it's the Amazon seller app, exact same thing. So that process is expedited a lot. And it'll get quicker and quicker the more you do it, because, for example, if you're doing it in pawn shops, you'll quickly identify trends of games that you see at every single shop that you no longer need to scan, right? It's the old Maddens and the Destiny 2 and, like Connect Sports that suddenly you begin to recognize. And once you've gone to a few pawn shops, maybe the fifth one down the road, you only need to look up 50% of the games that you see. And now I'm at the point where I'll look up maybe 3% or something like that. And suddenly you can go a lot quicker and you're starting to pick stuff out and know its value without even having to look it up. So there is a ton of potential in video games. It's just a matter of investing in your education and just putting the time in, putting the reps in. And the other way to do it is actually the way that I started out. I didn't start out going to pawn shops because, especially in the beginning, that was just intimidating. And especially having to walk in somewhere and just not have any knowledge, but know someone's going to be watching you the whole time and feel a little bit more self-conscious. The way that I learned was through buying lots of stuff at yard sales. So I'll go and I'll pick up a lot of a Wii and a lot of games for $30. And then the process of piecing that out and extracting as much profit as I can is also an education, because you're going to know, okay, I can sell Wii Sports now for $25 on its own, but I'm going to take these 3 Just Dance games and I'm going to lot those up because they're only worth $5 a piece, but they might go for more in a lot. And then I'm going to take these 12 other games that are shovelware and I'm going to lot all those up because they're worth $1 a piece. And you can learn really well that way at a low buy cost. The key there is, if you are sourcing yard sales and thrift stores, you have to be willing to go consistently and give yourself as many at-bats as possible. Because when you're going into a pawn shop, you can count on them having video games every single time. You can't count on the same thing at yard sales. You've got to be willing to put in time and go to a lot of sales, ask at every single one in order to drum up those deals, because there are more people looking to get in at that lower buy cost. Sorry, that was kind of a long answer, but
no, you're good.
That's good.
I was going to say what you put there at the end. That's something I've learned from watching John Cincinnati Picker. He's like, always ask, because you never know. And I've actually had it happen 2 or 3 times where I go to a yard sale and say, hey, do you happen to have any video games? Oh, yeah, we got some in the house. We hadn't put them out, but are you interested? Right. And sometimes they'll say, it's kind of older stuff. Are you still interested? I was like, Yeah, I'll take a look at it because I was like, honestly, some of that older stuff is what I actually want. But
Yeah.
if you bring it out, but yeah, it is.
What can increase your odds even more is listing the kind of thing that you're looking for. So I can't tell you the number of times. I mean, just this last summer, I went to a yard sale. I was like, hey, do you guys have any video game stuff? And they're like, oh, no, nothing like that. It was an older couple. I walk over and I spot, actually, I have it right here. I spot this guy lying on a table.
Oh,
with this price sticker on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, and that happens with stuff that's not for sale as well. You've probably heard people say, buy what's not for sale.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This is a way of doing that. And instead of just saying, hey, do you have any video games? You might say, or if they're shaking their head, you might say, oh, I'm just looking for like old Nintendo or Sony, Sega, DS, Game Boy. And sometimes that'll trip something in their mind that when everyone else has asked that day, they might not have even thought that was video games.
Yeah.
Or they might, like one time I rolled up to a yard sale, they had this bag full of N64 games that they didn't think was going to sell the whole day. They almost didn't put it out. And I asked how much they were wanting, and they said, would $5 be too much? And I was like, nope, that's just fine with me. Because like, like relative value is just such a crazy thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, always ask. It really pays.
That's awesome.
It's the difference between the person that has the Madden 2001 that's saying, hey, this is a $15 game.
Right.
And who has the N64 console with games and says,
right. Or versus the NCAA 14, which is now worth like $200.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. And you know, most of us, I said, you think about how many beginner resellers that have walked past NCAA 14 and said, oh, it's a sports game. They're
guarantee I have.
Yeah. I was like, man, I mean, unless you're looking it up or you have prior knowledge. I see what I did when I first started sourcing. I used the thrift store like Class. That's what I do. And I sit there and scan it. If I've got the time, I'm going to go in and scan a bunch of stuff. And it may not even be anything I'm going to buy, but I'm just scanning through. So I've got a mental thing going of this is garbage. This is good. This is garbage. This is good. So then when I hit the yard sale, I'm going, this is garbage, but this is good. Like that's the same thing. Even items that may be priced too high at the thrift store. Like some of the electronics is ridiculous. Like they think it's brand new. But I said, but if I go to a yard sale, I've got a $35, $40 item and the guy's got $2 on it versus the thrift store's got 25. You know, that's kind of what you got to do. You got to learn. And there's no shortcuts other than the using the app. Really.
Right.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Played that trick a few times. Yeah, Rev Resale said he's played that trick a few times with the asking, and I've seen it. So Steve-O asked, how much would you pay for an NCAA 14 to flip?
Yeah, so I actually found one of those at a video game store of all places a couple weeks back.
Bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah, $55, and I paid it very quickly. And because the thing is, again, because Amazon pricing rules are stupid, I sold that copy for $227.
Yeesh, man.
So knowing that, I'd probably pay $100 for one. So if you've got one, I'll pay it, especially because like marketplaces are different too. Like it could be maybe on like Let Go, it's going for like only $140 or so, and then after shipping and fees, you're going to be at about $100 anyway. So anyway, that's what I would pay.
Colton found one this week, Redneck Resale. He actually has it in his latest video.
Oh, really?
I also remember he sold the box. Colton, you could probably type it in the chat. What was it, like $25, $30 just for the box? Like
collectors.
Crazy. Well, somebody looking at the 200.
Yeah, I've heard that part of the rise of that is that it's becoming a really popular game for streamers.
Yeah.
Steve-O said that somebody at his work has one for $100.
I'd buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy, and everybody has their little niche that they know a little bit more about than other things. I think a lot of people gravitate to video games. Of course, we watch in the reseller community, people gravitate to all kinds of stuff, like whatever the most content's coming out about, then people jump. I even bought some sports cards, even though I'm not into that.
That's a great example.
But I bought some sports cards a while back, which like Rev and Nikki T and some of these guys do. They're killing it with those cards. But for me, I honestly don't like listing them, like not that much. Like he's listing all his smalls and that kind of stuff on a separate. But for me, it's just not my thing. But I bought some because it reminded me of my childhood. I went down the rabbit hole for a minute. And I was like,
and that's the thing too, the nostalgia tax that people place on items,
Yeah. For sure, man. Like I do video games too, not to your level, because I see that stack behind you right there.
Oh yeah,
that's like
I'm flexing back here.
Yeah, you got the tower.
Yeah, I wish I could pretend that was the norm for me, but that's pretty exceptional.
Yeah. Hey, do you know who the January house is, Mike? Dude, Mike bought like an 18-foot trailer of video games for $250.
What?
Yeah. They were it looked like mostly 360 games. I think there was some PlayStation 2 and stuff in there. Trailer.
$50 for a trailer.
Yeah. If you check out his IG, I think he has a couple of videos too. I mean, he's a smaller channel as well, but man, I saw that on IG. The January house. He does a lot of auctions.
Okay.
So it fell right into his place, like doing a lot of auctions.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, what was it? Joe's Deals over here. He sold a soda can too for $305. Yeah.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I haven't been on that. I'm trying to think what the most valuable one I've sold. Maybe like $50. I don't remember what it was. Nothing on that level.
So Caleb, man, I mean, now it sounds like you've gotten a handle on your business model. You're getting in a rhythm of things. Like where do you see it going in 5 years, man? Scaling up sounds like the way for you to go, but
that's a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot today, as I have been trying to process that by myself.
Yeah.
So the story with this most recent purchase is GameStop had this like half off sale. Pretty crazy. Basically anything $20 and under you could get for half off. And there was just a lot of good stuff that I bought. Ended up spending a good amount of money, and this entire wall of my office was just completely full. I'll see if I can bring up a picture here of packages. And what I was thinking the entire time, because it took me there's so much stuff about this process that I could be scaling right now. The checkout process, first of all, like I could hand a list to somebody of the number of games that I want, but on GameStop it's so tedious because you can only add like 2 of each game to the cart at one time, and you can only add a certain number of games of titles to your cart, and you have to add them all one at a time. There's no way to reload your cart. There's it's so inefficient, and I could have saved myself literally 2 days of adding stuff to my cart one by one and scanning through GameStop's entire website looking for profitable deals if I could have, if I had a contractor, if I had an employee of some sort. And then once it all got to my doorstep, I spent another whole day just unpackaging stuff, dealing with all the crap, the packing materials and everything that was in there, sorting everything into condition, and then sorting all the conditions into various titles so that I can eventually get it all listed. So it's so much work that does not take much training.
Right.
So I get a little worked up right now because I was just thinking to myself today, like, man, I could outsource a lot of this and have been I could outsource this so that I can go outsourcing
Yeah.
And do the stuff that I really enjoy even more. So that's something I need to put more thought into. The biggest reason I haven't so far is because this is my primary workspace. It's in our home. And so given that I don't have like a warehouse or a unit or an office that like I could have somebody come to like do work with me, it's a little bit of a different situation if it wasn't like a close friend or a family member. You know, there are a lot of factors to consider there. So that's holding me back a little bit. The space is holding me back a little bit. Would love in a future house, maybe, I don't know, 5 years down the road or something, to have, I would love to have either like a large detached garage or enough land to build a warehouse on our property that's detached from the house, so that not only I would have more space, but also would have the potential to like have people in there working day to day, and I wouldn't necessarily have to be there all the time. But all that to say, there definitely are parts of my business that I could scale. There are other parts like sourcing that I would be more hesitant to scale because I don't necessarily want to equip someone to be my competition. But it's on my mind and something that stay tuned, because if I'm smart, I'll probably get on that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like even just having, finding a virtual assistant to set maybe, to just even do the tedious task of setting up your cart for your GameStop. And then you don't hand them the credit card. The card is just filled up and it should be cash and saved for you to go in there and check out yourself and just kind of give the once over. I don't know if that would, if that saves you a day of time.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these sales these guys have been killing lately. Brian, man, that Sega CD, $875. Wow. He said that was 2 years ago.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And the Rev has sold $600 worth of health and beauty from over a year ago. Wow. Crazy stuff. It's funny though, what you're talking about with the scale is me and Sam, this is a conversation that we have on occasion about, me too. Like I recently bought a shed. I'm still waiting for a rival. And then, like I said, as we're talking this stuff the other day, I was telling him I was like, dude, I think I'm gonna have a yard sale and like get rid of some of the low end items. That's what I've been doing. That's why I'm a little red today, because I've been outdoors like doing that. And, but just trying to figure out how to scale once you're looking at this thing more as a business, more as a full-time thing, more as, providing consistent income. It is the question that we all have to kind of look at and ponder. For me, I want the shed because I know the problem for me with being in your house is it's not a separation there, right, between work and other stuff. Like other stuff starts to interfere. Like for me, I was saying, man, I mean, I'm in my little office back here, my eBay room, but yet the living room, the kitchen, the bedroom, like all that kind of stuff is one of those things that's easily accessible. And working for yourself, it's not like you got somebody saying, hey, you need to get these 15 listings done before you leave the office. Like that's not what's going on. So I watched John recently, and he was talking about how he works 9 to 5 at reselling and takes a lunch just like you would do at that, which to me seems weird in some ways, but in other ways I'm like, man, that might be a way to get past some of that, because the trap of being self-employed, man, if you're not figuring out better processes, then if you're not careful, you're just unemployed, right?
So Eric, is that shed, that's going to be somewhere that it's big enough for you to like use as an office space? It's not just for storage?
Yeah, it's like 14 by 24. The only thing I won't do in there is I'm setting up my listing, my photography place, my shipping station. All that'll be out there. And then I'm keeping one of my rooms. Right now I have 2 rooms in our house that I use primarily for eBay. I'm going to keep the smallest of those rooms, and I'm basically going to turn it into a YouTube studio. I think I'll still store like my video games and consoles and electronics in there, just because, you know, weather and other things. Like I don't want any kind of problems with that. But that's kind of the thought process, is to go out there, pack, ship, lists, you know, organize, kind of get a little bit more better at the process. And then I've been trying to hire somebody to help me list right now. Honestly, my nephew, who's like 12, but he's a whiz at you know, apps and any kind of technology. He's just really smart at it. And so what I've been doing, I recently started, we go to church with them on Sundays. So I'm actually putting together totes for him. So I'll take a tote down and pick up a tote. We just recently started that, and have him list it and save it. Obviously, I'm not going to make it live because we live a little ways away from each other. So I don't want to make it live and sell it and then have to worry about how to ship it. But, you know, it's enabling me to get an extra 15, 20 listings in a week. And, you know, I give him a few dollars off of that, and look out for him for Star Wars figures. And that's one of the things that we're, you know, just a way for me to get a few extra listings in and kind of teach him a little bit about business too. So
that's great.
Something
Eric, I don't know if you saw Bill's question up here about online sourcing.
Yep. Let's see where it's at. Man, there's a bunch of questions I missed. I'm sorry.
Yep. They're thirsty for Caleb's knowledge.
There you go, Caleb.
Do you guys have any advice on finding online sourcing opportunities like clearance sales? Honestly, I'm a little bit, my focus is pretty narrow on that. I do recommend checking GameStop's deal of the day every day. That's mostly where I've been getting all of my deals, along with like their weekly ad. I mostly say that because I'm convinced that GameStop is dying, like Toys R Us kind of dying. That's the only way that I can get my head around the breadth and depth of sales that they've been having recently, and also their significantly limited selection. So I'm basically acting as if like GameStop is basically liquidating, and yeah, I'm checking there every single day, and it seems like almost every day there are profitable deals. Now, is that going to be the case for like sellers on every platform? I don't know. I think there still is opportunity. It might just be a little bit more limited, but building that discipline of just checking it every day and checking comps on whatever platform you sell on could end up being pretty fruitful, because a lot of the stuff that goes on sale, it's the kind of items that sell most days on eBay or Amazon or Mercari. So with high velocity items, the risk is a little bit more minimal. And even if you take a risk on some stuff and you only end up making your money back, like that education in itself is valuable. So I would check GameStop every day like I've been doing. But honestly, I don't do a whole lot online these days outside of that.
Yeah, I don't do anything online, to be honest. Like I've, you know, I might do it as it gets closer to Christmas, maybe some Black Friday stuff, but that I only have, man, there's only one GameStop for me within about 2 hours. And those guys, I like the other one that was here closed down. Like, aren't they closing a ton of those stores? Like,
they closed a lot this last year, and I can't imagine that like post COVID it's going to be any better.
Nah.
Yeah,
for sure. Like I went in there. I have done some RA in GameStop, but it was like figurines and stuff, like not necessarily video games. Honestly, because I didn't have a whole lot of time, I just went in and looked and scanned a few things and dipped. But just one of those things. I haven't done that. Louis asked, do you think GameStop's website doesn't bother to update so resellers don't oversource their product, or sort of a gating process?
Update that process. I'm guessing what you're referring to. I just snapped a rubber band on myself. I'm guessing what you're referring to is not being able to add more than 2 items to your cart, or like only being able to go one at a time. And the answer would be yeah. I would guess that is part of what they're trying to do. And they're not doing as much as they possibly could. I think they really want the money. So they might be trying to make it harder for people who aren't just like willing to put in the work, like, because I think their stock would diminish a lot faster if somebody could add 50 items to a cart. So I think it makes sense from their standpoint to want to sell units. So they're not like putting a cap per account. They're only putting a limit on your cart, and you can just fill the cart up again. So if you're willing to put in the work, you can get as many as you want until they run out of stock. Whereas they could have it that like my email address can only buy 2 of a certain game per day. They haven't done that. So I think they're just trying to strike a balance of making their games still available for both like collectors and resellers, but not to the point where resellers can easily just wipe out all of their stock of a given game. That'd be my guess, at least. Because if they just wanted to squash resellers completely, they could pretty easily.
Oh, yeah. 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 Sure. Miss Janet asked if you bought everything online. I guess she's referring to your
all these games.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was all adding one by one. I'll see if I can get a little bit better shot of it. These are the very good condition games that I have stacked back here. There they are. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's 3 deep. So it's more than I've ever had in my office at one time. And it was one at a time on GameStop.com. And I wish that I had a VA to do that, because it was
You reckon? You reckon?
Well, I mean, and I guess that's the trade-off, though. You know, all that time that you spent, you know, adding 2 at a time and searching titles, you could have been driving around physically, store to store, source to source.
I could have, yeah. And if it was between, like, if I had to choose one or the other, like if I could outsource and get both done, that's obviously optimal. But between like going to, like, I could have spent that time spending a couple days going to pawn shops, but like when I can sit on my butt and order stuff from home, like, and I don't have to wonder whether stuff's going to be there or not. Like, I like that guaranteed thing. And I especially like that I'm able to I like being able to list a lot of one item at once. That's another big advantage. So when I can just make one listing for 15 of the same game in the same condition, that saves me a lot of time and is a good way to scale, rather than 15 different games that I might have bought at a pawn shop, even if the rate of return might be a little bit higher.
Yeah, I was going to say too, like, I mean, too, taking the quality into account, because, dude, if you picked up that many games at a yard sale, half of them wouldn't work. You would have to resurface them. Like,
very true. And to be honest, you have to be careful with GameStop too. Like, GameStop is not to be trusted. You got to inspect everything. I found multiple games that they sent me that were not the right game that they said on the invoice. They'll send you games that don't have any cases at all. And that's part of kind of what you have to expect. You have to factor that in a little bit in how selective you are. But that's part of why I've been making videos recently about like what kind of games I buy on GameStop.com and like how, like, what my thought process is on that. Cause I want to let people know the factors that I'm kind of considering and making large deals, large buys like this. Because you do have to factor in, like, GameStop is probably going to not be the most integral, and partly because, like, they as a company are so, like, widely diffused. Like, they don't ship from a central warehouse. They ship from all their different retail locations. That's why I had like so many packages, like hundreds of packages, rather than just some large boxes. So it's, I think, hard to solidify their business practices across the whole company. But, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that's some of the crazy, before reselling, I'm into other video game channels, and you would see them sourcing from GameStop, and that's the things you would hear: missing cases, wrong games. Some of the games would show up from this place a week later. The other half of the games would show up from another place. So there's a lot of uncertainty sometimes, and getting a direct answer isn't always the easiest from GameStop.
Oh, their customer service is terrible.
Yeah,
You can't even call them now. It has to be through email.
Oh man, yeah.
And yeah, Lone Star Picker, you're right. GameStop sucks, but also I am making a lot of money from them, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
It's not how I was.
Hey, I mean, like I said, with the company liquidating and folding, I mean, they had already started talking about liquidating 1/3 of their stores back in January before all this COVID mess was happening.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all this stuff is, I think, just another nail in the coffin for them.
Looks like Uniquely Me has been watching my streams. I know she has been, actually, because I saw her in there. And yeah, I have way too many Barbie games for multiple systems. That took me by surprise, because I think of that kind of stuff as being like shovelware, but I think they're going to sell well. I haven't sold them in the past. I think they'll do well. Tracy, is that her name? Uniquely Me?
That's right. Yep, Tracy.
Tracy, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Her and Tommy have a late night live stream every Thursday and Sunday nights. You should check out.
Oh, I will.
It's more of like reseller hangout at night.
Sure. I'll make a note of that.
After dark. Yeah.
No, they're fun. They're a fun group.
Yeah, sometimes, man, they're on there like 6 or 7 hours. It's crazy. You guys are definitely I think y'all should get an endorsement for coffee on that show.
8-hour streams, 6-hour streams.
Yeah, I was like, man.
Who is this Brittany Barnett? I think this is a troll right here.
Yeah, it probably is. That's my daughter, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Brittany's still looking to get that. She's talking about my sunburn that I got earlier. Not wearing a hat, not listening to advice. So, but y'all can subscribe to Brittany. She's fixing to start YouTube. She just don't know it yet.
Get it. I've been dropping the link to Caleb's channel. So if you guys haven't already, definitely give his channel a check out. I mean, I've been watching him from, like I said, well before he's monetized. So it's been cool watching his journey. From just a few hundred to he's getting close to 2,000 now. So, and dude, you got on the sneak too. Like, I'll be watching, and then there's a commercial. It's like, he got monetized. What? Like, so it's been really fun being a part of that journey and watching you grow. And yeah, man, I'm excited to see where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really blessed. Had a lot of help along the way.
Yeah, those rosters were genius.
Oh yeah, the roster.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Honestly, I feel like that's my most underrated video.
Dude.
I scripted that one pretty hard. Although, to be honest, the production quality was pretty low, so I understand why it didn't perform all that well. But
I think it's tough because it's to get other resellers who don't really know who the Rinzies, even someone like Brad, Diary of a Flipper, all the way across, on the other side of the world, like, who's this guy? But then you watch him, you're like, I see why he got one.
Well, yeah, and I found him by searching by upload date. It was his channel would never have been recommended to me.
Dude, those Aussie guys,
hidden gem.
You should check out Aussie VHS Thrifter too if you haven't.
Yes, I found him through Brad as well.
Rob is hilarious. Oh my gosh, they cuss like nobody's business. So
not family
little kids are. Yes, do not watch if you do not enjoy
and
cussing.
Also, cussing rules are kind of different in Australia too. Like
yeah.
It's not a 1-to-1.
No, I'm pretty sure they use F-bombs in place of the and all the other articles.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I watched those guys, man. The Aussie Thrifts guy, I think Ken Skeets and those guys, man, they did like a 17-hour listing hangout. 17 hours, man.
Whoa. Were there?
I did 8. I almost passed out.
Because I did crazy. 2 hours today, and I was getting hungry.
Dude,
I did 8 the last week. Yeah. I think it was last Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a lot. After 6, you start to get a little stir crazy.
Yeah.
I listed 80 items in 8 hours. So it's crazy.
Oh, Tracy, I figured out after my stream today how to turn super chats on. So
Good. Okay. There you go.
But I think they should be on next time whenever I have another way too big GameStop haul.
That's buddy.
Awesome.
That's a lot. Yeah, super chats work in premieres too, Caleb. If you're if
really?
you do it as
Okay, well maybe I'll try that.
Yeah. Louis was asking about the name of the channel, Aussie VHS.
Yeah,
Aussie.
Yeah, like Australian, like Aussie.
Yeah.
Sean said he could do an 8-hour eating challenge.
Just found your rosters.
Yeah,
Dan was asking to post that up. You guys see that? I mean, who is it? It was like Rally Roots and Rinzi.
Yep. Yeah, I tried to get a good diversity of like following.
Sure, yeah.
Everything from like 150 subs to like 150K. Oh no, I guess Gary was on there, so he would have been the highest. Gary
V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Brought me in.
You know, and I think of there are a few here, myself included, you know, who were influenced by that trash talk business, you know, and I've been watching his live streams in the morning.
Yeah.
And just all the other resellers who aren't necessarily a part of the community, or, you know, we haven't seen them around.
Yeah.
But you hear them talk about, you know, how much trash talk has influenced their life and what they're doing now with that knowledge.
Yeah, definitely the highest production yard sale vlog series ever. I can say that with confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, you know, for me, I forget how I even stumbled onto resellers. Like, I guess, you know, because I did a lot of side hustles, and I think that's what, honestly, one of the guys for me, oddly enough, Reyes, the entrepreneur, like I started watching him some, and then I guess it recommended some of the stuff through there is how I got to the back end of reselling as far as content creators. But
what do you guys think about the resale community, like as a whole? Like, what are the biggest positives and negatives?
So I mean, all the folks that are here, you'll kind of see them around. I guess this is our little bubble. I would say the reason why I took the plunge, Caleb, to start YouTube was because all the folks in this chat and you know, plus or minus a few other, right? Everybody's been extremely warm, supportive, and also, you know, they kind of, it's almost like family, you know, because I think being an entrepreneur, let alone being a reseller, is a very lonely job, especially if you don't have the support of a family member. So, you know, to have, you know, all these people in the chats, to be calling them, you know, coworkers is nice. Something you can kick around ideas, maybe even just vent and share things that even a family member who does care might not understand because they're not in it, or share the passion. So that, I would say, has been the positive, the encouragement, the sense of this actual sense of community. I know some folks don't really believe in that word, but you know, Eric and I have seen that support, and a lot of folks, you know, like, you know, Rev Resale, who's been in here, Redneck Resale, who's been in here, on their way to monetization. I saw all these folks, including myself, get behind them, and whether it's help push their subscriber count or watching their videos on playlists, that has been the positives. The negatives, I don't see as much, but I hear folklores about it. Is the jealousy, folks who may be a little bit more jealous of your success or what you're doing. So I haven't seen that as much. I get the feeling that's more of the generation, or maybe two generations, that kind of came before us, as far as content creators who also resell, you know, or resellers who also create content.
Yeah, I think some of it too is with those guys, I think obviously the bigger you get as far as channels, like
Mhm.
with more people, I think you do see obviously more people watching, the more drama there can be, or the more whatever can come of that. I definitely feel that. For me, just mirroring what Sam said, the sense of community that is here. Now I know, it's kind of crazy because sometimes I think about, like, I feel like reselling is a bunch of pods of communities, right?
Mhm.
Like there's people that are the Poshmark, more maybe they're geared towards that. They have certain people that they watch. They're within a community. They're chatting. You have people that are strictly Amazon. They're all about Amazon. They're all about retail arbitrage. They're all about, you kind of see a little pod, and it's kind of weird. Like this community that I fell into with, like I said, most of the people you see in the chat, and then people that are watching their channels as well. Like Sam mentioned a few. I think what happens is within our community, we see all these people, like we're hanging out on Nate and Anthony's show in the morning, or there's some people that hang out on Victoria's show in the morning, or, there's these different little daily live shows that are happening that people get drawn into. Then there's people like we are fortunate, myself and Sam, we have 20, 30 people that'll come in here and hang out with us anytime any one of us pop anything up. So I think that side of it is cool. What we've honestly tried to do with our channel as here, like, I mean, this forum is to try to bring people that may not be in our day-to-day chats, and and try to bring people to introduce to the community that bring value. Because honestly, for us doing this show, is we wanted to do that. We wanted to introduce. It's almost like, hey, I'm bringing some people home to meet my family. Like, hey, this is my friend at college. I'm gonna bring him in to meet my family and introduce him. Or this is a guy that I met, that I think is somebody that I can trust to bring to meet my family. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I feel like I can do that. And then the other side of it, like we were talking about earlier, smaller channels, guys that are getting started and need some inspiration, some motivation, some, encouragement. Man, what a great place to be able to come in, and kind of see the progression. Like, I mean, Caleb, obviously you hit monetization. Like for most guys, myself included, that's a goal on my little list of saying, hey, man, I look forward to the day that happens for me. Not that I'm expecting YouTube to say, congratulations, here's a check for $100,000. Like that's not what my immediate goal is by any means. But I look at that and I see people willing to get behind you to help things happen and support. I have people in here that have bought stuff from my store, like not because they had to, because they want to support me.
Yeah.
So I think that's the bigger thing. The negative, I mean, I have seen some jealousy stuff, not within our community so much, like not within our little bubble, but I think some of the guys that have been around for a while have been burned by other content creators. I think that there's some partnerships that may have had some misunderstanding. Maybe there's one guy that thought it was something and another guy thought it was something else, and they didn't get along. But for me, I'm not scared to be able to share within the community, and I think a lot of it's just how what are you putting out there? For me, I'm trying to be an encourager. I'm trying to be somebody who's helping educate. I'm willing to help as much as possible. I mean, obviously, if I had 100,000 subscribers, it'd be harder for me to help. But honestly, I'm one of those people that I remember who was here. Steve-O made a comment earlier. Steve-O was in my first live. I think he was one of the first people that ever popped in my live. And I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that somebody would come in and watch me when I'm just getting started. So that's me. But that's how I feel about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'd say I think a big positive for me is I think that the resale community in general has a really good, I think because we have a inherently better grasp on the opportunity that is out there, I have a really strong sense of like a no excuses mentality from resellers. You know, there are very few victims. I think that's much more common in resale than in a lot of the world. And so that's really refreshing. I think on the negative side, and Sam kind of hinted at this, I do think there's a lot of comparison. And that's something, I mean, that is definitely was a temptation a lot for me starting out. It's hard not to compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10.
Yeah.
And especially when you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you're watching videos of like, you know, really great scores and like great margins and like people's highlight reels. I think that can be, it can sometimes detract from what you're doing. And I don't think that, but on the flip side of that, what I love is I think resale in general is very collaborative. Like there are so many folks out there that are just in it to help people and to share their knowledge and to provide value and not sell a course, you know, and not like put as many ads in as they can or extract value in whatever way. I think it depends on where you're looking. And, but yeah, on the whole, like resale, the community in a lot of ways is kind of what sucked me in, like, especially when I was early on, just finding those people that like I really could trust and learn from, you know, who can sort of serve as my mentors from afar. Like that was huge for me.
Do you think too, though, it's kind of, you know, I call it schools of where resellers are bred from, you know, and I wonder if, because a lot of the things they're saying sounds like a Gary Vee, you know what I mean? Providing value, not chasing after that quick monetary conversion,
right?
And you know, and really just killing folks with value and letting that, you know, letting the monetary gains be the side effect of you helping people.
Big.
Yeah. Because I see other folks that they come up and they've grown, their channels have grown very rapidly, but then, you know, the deterrent is, you know, I went from loving them to, you know, now I can't really sit through a video because they crammed a commercial in every 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So
well, and there are other people who have gone the route that you know, I started out early on watching a lot of that have mostly become like course peddlers. You know, and like try like this formula or buy this ebook. I probably shouldn't name specific ones. I don't know.
We're probably right now.
Like they're like celebrity status, and they're more like entities than real people, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but and I've watched those channels like decline significantly in views. Like it's at the point where they might have north of 100K subs, but they're getting 1,000 views per video. You know, because like you can only keep that up for so long, and people smell when you're in it to extract value rather than to provide it, and it turns them off real quick.
Yeah. And I think that's part of Eric and I talked about some of the folks who create Amazon content.
Amazon's the worst.
Yeah.
Like if you've watched 3 resale videos on YouTube, every ad that you get is going to be some guru saying, try my course, look at my students. They're already all doing 100K a month. It's so easy. It's a turnkey business. It's passive income. Oh, it drives me crazy. One of the I'll give you guys a preview. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but one of my best video ideas that I'm hoping to do at some point is reacting to those Amazon guru ads as someone who sells full-time on Amazon, to hopefully give people like a more grounded perspective. Like, here's someone who's not selling a course saying, okay, this makes sense, or this is phony baloney.
Yes, please. Yes.
So we'll see. That's the kind of video that like definitely takes longer to create, but I feel like it'd be fruitful.
It is crazy too, because I think of it's kind of crazy. I know myself, like I told you earlier, I got in trouble with Amazon because I took bad advice, YouTube advice,
Yeah.
because there's people that are, they're thrifting. I mean, they're doing RA on items that, because when you first start, I mean, there are those that said, like the way that you talked about, like starting with books. There are other guys that said, oh, no, you can RA. I mean, I don't understand this. And maybe this is something that I got a message from eBay one time saying that there was a potential of me drop shipping. And they actually took away my top rated seller for almost a week. And I was like, hey, what's the item? Like, what are you talking about? Like that kind of thing. And yet there are people on YouTube that are like, drop ship on eBay. Like, I mean, they've got whole channels built on drop ship on eBay. I was like, how are you guys operating on eBay?
And have you had people purchase stuff from you to drop ship before?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm buying this as a gift. Don't include anything that could let people know that I didn't send it.
I would say 25% of every electronic I sell, especially combo units, VCRs, like they're definitely going out. Make sure you don't include any eBay packing material. Okay. As I put my eBay tape on there and drop my card in.
Yeah.
I will tell you a funny story. Some of these guys, some of these guys may have heard this, but I'll tell you a funny story with me with a drop shipper. I had a drop shipper. I sold a combo unit. Now, this is an older combo unit. The connections are AV cables, coaxial, S video, right? I always take a picture of the back, take a picture of the unit, the back, the front, the serial number, the whole bit. Like I put it out there and get that message. Hey, this is a gift. Make sure you don't include any invoice or whatever. Okay, no problem. So I send the thing out. I get a return. The return says, this unit does not have HDMI capability. Duh. Like I put it on there, send the description. And I said, well, send it. Like the way I do those electronics is I make the buyer pay for the return, shipping, right? Okay, send it back. No problem. So the guy sends it back. Dude, I get the unit back. It's my box. It's got the unit in there. In a bubble mailer, there's a remote for the unit, which I didn't sell. Has a different information on it. The whole bit is in that package. So I'm like, okay. So the guy, he's messaging me on the thing, I got the unit. I said, I got the unit back. So I was like, I'll be happy to pay for the item, but I'm not paying for the shipping. That's on you both ways, like, and the guy's like, okay. So 2 days later, I sold the unit with the remote and it came out okay. I was like, made like an extra $10 on it, but
right,
that stuff blows me away though. That guys on eBay on YouTube are putting stuff out like about content that are like, man, you're not helping the guys, you're actually crippling people. And that's the thing I think about. I hate people to be taken advantage of. I really do. Now, that being said, I'm gonna list my things at a little bit above market average and then send an offer. So some people could say, well, you're taking advantage of people. It's like, no, I've got a business here, but as far as YouTube content, I'm trying to put something out to be helpful. I'm not trying to bait and switch people. I'm not trying to, hey man, I used to resell at one point, but now I'm going to tell you all the secrets that were secrets 20 years ago. And now, I don't know. It's one of the things. But I think that's the balance though, right? Is so as content creators, for me, I'm not against people making money on YouTube. I'm not, man. If you have subscribers and you have commercial breaks, as long as you're not pounding me with them, like I'm not against it. I have premium anyway, so I don't watch them to begin with. I'm not against that, but it's just like, don't sell me that kind of stuff. Like it's the whole thing of useless information. Like basically I've taken your video, like if I was to leave this place and say, hey, let me tell you how to sell video games, sourcing at GameStop, and this is exactly what you do, and this is how you punch it in. And by the way, you can watch Caleb's channel and get this information for free, but I'm going to charge you $10 a month for the rest of your life. Then I'll give you a list.
Right.
So,
well, if Caleb ever wanted to know where the victims in the community are going, that's where they're going.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, but to each their own, and you know, and that's why I'm like, you might as well just keep providing value, because I think people are smarter. You know, maybe at first they get caught up in the allure and the attraction of these courses, and then they quickly realize it might be a lot of smoke, or they could probably do it themselves, and there are other folks that'll tell you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and it is one of those things too. Like I think about, okay, I don't know about you. Do you get a lot of messages? Like, Caleb, are you getting people message you from your videos? Or
Yeah, like comments and DMs on Instagram.
So, I mean, that's the other thing too, is like, you know, you think you're a couple thousand subscribers. So how do you handle that when you get to 80,000 subscribers? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's the other side of it.
People who do it well. Like I've reached out to a couple like Rally Roots and Reezy, just like earlier on in my career, just saying, hey, wanted to say thank you guys for putting out the free content. Like I learned so much from you. And they responded. Like they're just down to earth people that I think made time for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's commendable.
Yeah. Ryan will tell you, he doesn't get to everybody. So like, you know, he's like, you know, I am running my own business. Plus, you know, I have a lot of people reaching out, but I do what I can. So.
Yeah, I got a response from him one time on a pair of jeans. I sent him a picture of a pair of jeans. I was like, hey, is this something you guys know about? It took a little while. It took like a day, but he got back to me. But, you know, for me, I mean, so I guess my question in that would be, so what if you had somebody that was pretty needy, you know, that was like, okay, I'm going to ask you 100 questions a day. Like, you know, that would be the only way for me that I could see saying, look, you know, I can give you some information, but time is money for all of us. Like, I don't know, you know, I don't know how you balance that. And I don't know what I would do in that situation, to be honest. Like, how do you balance it? I guess that's the question.
I might, because oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Nah, you're good. I think we're on lag.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, I would say part of the reason that I make like certain videos is in response to questions that I get most consistently. So one thing that I might do is just like drop the link to a video or a playlist and say, hey, check this out. And if you have more specific questions afterwards, then let me know. And that will tell me, like, if this person's willing to put in the work and do their homework, then I'm a little bit more willing to help them out. But if they're wanting to be spoon-fed the information and, you know, have a personal course taught from me, then, you know, that's not as much what I'm about. I really want to be in a position of helping people who are like self-starters and willing to take the initiative and invest in their education. But as far as, you know, one-on-one free tutoring, that's not as much the business I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's the thing that everybody has to kind of decide for themselves. So, and that being said, you know, so for me, if somebody was in that position, I mean, that's a little harder to judge, right? Like, I mean, if you're, because honestly, I know bigger YouTubers that they get VAs to do that stuff. Like they get somebody, thanks for watching the video, or like, you know, whatever. Like there's people that do that kind of stuff. They have other people handling those day-to-day things, because that's the balance, you know, that
maybe
we all
be there one day as employees to do our social interactions for us digitally.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. Well, guys, we've been on for a little while.
Yeah.
Y'all have any further questions for Caleb? See, Nate just got off. He just dropped in. So thanks, Nate, for coming by.
We appreciate you coming on, Caleb, man. Dropping some knowledge. It's been cool to hear your insights.
This has been a lot of fun. I love talking shop. It's good to, you know, just be social, and talk
For
to
sure.
real people and get out of my head a little bit, because I work a lot by myself. So this is refreshing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And there's a lot of folks like we talked about, Tracy and Tommy having a show, and Nate here with Every Day I'm Hustling, and Pittsburgh, they have a show in the morning. So don't be a stranger. There are live streams and little pockets of the communities that you can always come in on, and people are more than open and warm to invite you in.
Yeah, I've been writing them down as I'm seeing them, channels that I need to be checking in on more. So, but yeah, I appreciate the invite. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. So Caleb, do you have anything coming up? Like, what's your video drop schedule like? Do you have anything coming out that we can turn people to you?
Yeah, so what I'm most excited about recently is my Switch Challenge series. So I started out with a Nintendo Switch game, and recently I've been collecting more for the Nintendo Switch, and my sort of grails for my collection are the special edition Switch consoles. So I started with my single Switch game, I sold it, and I'm using the money from that to buy more inventory and gradually snowball it until I have enough money to buy my first special edition Switch. And I'm trying to kind of build the collection that way. It's sort of a spin on the like $10 game collection idea that you might have seen from other YouTubers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm excited about the series, and I really like how it's gone so far. It's just been a lot of fun to make. That's actually what I'm going to film tomorrow at some yard sale. And then I also have been doing a lot of stuff about GameStop online arbitrage. But yeah, I'd say that's what I've been working on most recently.
All right, guys. So we have Caleb's link in the description of this video. Go by and show him some love, man. If you're not subbed, make sure you hit that up. And if you want to learn more about video games and what he's got going on now, I mean, obviously that stack behind him, he's definitely got some serious stuff going on. So, man, we appreciate having you on as well. Sam, I know you dropping one later today. Give the people a little.
I think I'm going to drop it in the morning. I just finished rendering, and I got to work on the thumbnail. So tomorrow morning, I'm dropping a video. I met Pete Craigslist Hunter and Mr. Buys a Lot a week and a half ago. I'm finally dropping the video. So,
cool.
So yeah, if you guys want to see what the trading post store looks like and a little knowledge bombs from a couple OG resellers, come check me out Saturday morning.
I sure will.
All right, guys. So myself, same thing. I'm going to try to drop in the morning, and I'll be showing you the crazy buy that when I bought a sporting goods store. There is some serious grail finds that I hit. I was telling Sam, it's one of those buys, like, what do you point to? Like, what's because there's at least 3 things in that buy that are amazing. So you won't want to miss that. That'll be coming out tomorrow. And as far as next week's show, man, we might be doing a little celebration. I may hint to that later in the week. But we might be doing a little celebration next week and see what happens this week. But Caleb, we obviously appreciate you coming on. Make sure you're subbed to him. If you're not subbed to Sam, make sure you hit that up as well. And we thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here. And as always, good luck out there tomorrow. If you're sourcing, man, hit them yard sales hard, find some good finds. And we will catch you next time. Thank you, guys.
Take care, guys.